Well, welcome to another Player podcast. And today, my special guest is Tim Groenewald. Nice to see you, Tim, and thank you for coming to join me.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So where did all your cricket story begin? How did it all come about?
Growing up in South Africa, cricket's a big part of growing up and in schools and that. I was very fortunate to be at a school where the head teacher was John T. Rhodes' dad, and that kind of coincided with the 1992 World Cup in Australia. Not sure if you remember his brilliant run out where he dived full length to run out Mzimam al-Haq.
Yeah.
So as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old at the time, starting your cricketing journey, if you like, and falling in love with the game, to watch that type of thing in the early hours of the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then head off to school and your cricket coach is John T's dad. That was probably the start. And then, every day, my dad throwing balls to me, picking balls up, taking me down to the nets, playing with friends at school, and then it just went from there. It was one of those things where, whenever I was asked as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever it was, what are you going to do one day? It was, I'm going to play cricket. Whether I was going to be good enough or not, no one knew, but that was my thing. I was going to play cricket, and stuck by that.
Did you always want to be a bowler, or?
I was very much a batter and bowler, growing up through the age groups. But I think as time went on, I probably enjoyed bowling more. Loved coming in down the order and giving it a whack and being in tricky situations. But yeah, bowling probably came into it more towards the age of 17, 18, 19. Yeah.
And how did you end up coming to England?
I came over on a school tour or not a school tour, like a club tour in 1997, 98, around there, as a 15-year-old. And anyway, came over, we started down in Cornwall, and we played a few different clubs. We stopped in here, funny enough, on the way up to Birmingham.
Did you?
Yeah, pulled in here on the bus. We went into the club shop at the time. Some kids wanted to buy a few bits and pieces for the tour ahead. And I remember the Somerset guys training on the field here at the time and just being a little bit like, wow, anytime you came across a professional team, if you like, you're a bit in awe. So yeah, that was that trip as a 15-year-old. Met a coach in Birmingham at the time, Paul Greetham.
Yeah.
We played against his club side, and he kind of just stayed in touch. Came out to South Africa to do some coaching, and when I was 18, he suggested I come over and play for Southern Coalfield Cricket Club, which he was in charge of at the time, and his dad was the head groundsman and chairman. So that was like music to my ears as a 18-year-old. Finishing school, I was like, brilliant, I'll go over to England and play a season of club cricket. And never looked back. Had a good year in the Birmingham League, topped the wicket charts and was up there in the runs. And Warwickshire got in touch to ask if I'd like to come down for a trial the following year if I was coming back. So I thought absolutely brilliant. And then following year came back, and Alan Donald was the second team coach at Warwickshire. Right. He gave me a call, which again, absolute hero, Alan Donald growing
Absolutely,
up, along with John T. Rhodes. And so I couldn't turn that down. Went down to Edgbaston for a trial. And then I ended up playing the whole season in the second team, just together with playing club cricket on the weekends. And come the end of the year, they offered me a 2-year contract because I had a British passport. And that was that. That was kind of my career in South Africa done, but with no regrets. Loved my time, playing at Warwickshire and then Derbyshire here in Kent. So
yeah. That's interesting. The Birmingham League in those days had some class acts, didn't they, playing?
Yeah, some unbelievable players, and even before me, I remember, thank goodness, for about 3 weeks, Shoaib Akhtar played in the Birmingham League, and we managed to avoid playing the team he was playing for. But just some great names that used to turn up in the league and play. Wasim Akram played for a few years at Smethwick, and it was a strong league. But really, I felt good for my journey as a cricketer, from going from playing club cricket to, playing in the Birmingham League and then playing second team cricket and finding my feet into the game and into the professional game.
What was it like working with Alan Donald? I mean, he was a legendary bowler, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was unbelievable. I learned a lot from him on just the mental side of the game of being a bowler and being a fast bowler, and I was a little bit quicker back in those days rather than so consistent top of off. So I used to hang on every word in terms of ruffling the batter up and letting him have a few and the mind games around that and how to win those battles. But just having him as our second team coach and bowling coach at Warwickshire, you look back at your career and sometimes I think you forget about those type of things, who you've worked with, who you've come across, and who's given you a lot of advice along the way. And
you played quite a few first team games at Warwickshire, didn't you?
A few first class games. Yeah. I'm going to say something like 15.
Yeah.
And played a lot of white ball cricket there. But it was probably through that frustration of not playing consistent first class cricket, which led to my move to Derby. Maybe I jumped the gun a little bit as a 20, what would I have been, 24, 25, 25.
Yeah.
And just got itchy feet. I wanted to be playing 4-day cricket day in and day out. I found it hard playing white ball cricket through the season, but then having to go off and play in the second team every other week. I just felt I'd reached a point where I wanted to play 4-day cricket in the first team. And Derby offered me that opportunity, which led to me jumping across there.
And you had 3 big seasons at Derbyshire, didn't you? And one of them, you won the second division championship.
Yeah. It was Derby was absolutely brilliant for me. I remember playing. I think it must have been one of the last one-day games of the season, early September for Warwickshire at Derby, in 2008, and we drove in, and I looked at the place and I was like, oh, imagine having to play here. Like I would absolutely hate it. Coming from Edgbaston and Warwickshire and the big club, I reckon 2 months later I'd signed for Derby, just because of the opportunity they offered and because I wanted to play 4-day cricket. And then getting across there and things changed after the first year. Our coach left and numerous players left, and we signed some young players, brought some guys in, and we managed to get a pretty good squad together. And relatively young, and everyone just gelled. Everyone got on really well. We managed to build that into a phenomenal run of games in 2012, or was it 2013? 2013. 2012 when we won Division 2. And we just got on a run, and we were top of Division 2 the whole season, with Yorkshire chasing us, a strong Yorkshire side, a strong Essex side. Kent were in Division 2 then. It was a strong division at the time, and we just managed to, week after week, pull off results, beat teams, hold on to draws where we needed to, to finish that season winning Division 2 and going up, and seeing what that meant to the supporters and a club which probably hadn't experienced that much success in recent times, and as a smaller club, you saw what it meant to everyone, which was really good.
And Wes Durston playing with you, didn't you?
Yeah, Wes had played for the Unicorns side in that one-day comp that year, and a great signing by John Morris.
Yeah.
Wes had got, I think, a couple of hundreds for the Unicorns, and he's a very good cricket player, very good cricketer. And when we heard we had signed him, we were like, brilliant. It's like, just someone so fresh coming in and with a point to prove.
Yeah.
And he was really good. Yeah.
He was a bit of a cult hero down here.
Yeah.
Oh, Wes.
He was, yeah.
Been around a long time, stayed probably too long.
Yeah.
But he made a comeback and did well for himself.
Yeah, and he was hungry for it.
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
really was hungry. So put in some good performances for us.
But then you went up, and in 2013, you had a couple of very good returns against us, didn't you? Against Somerset.
Yeah. We found it tough in Division 1. Really tough. I'd say more probably on the batting front. we just really struggled to get totals on the board, and we struggled to get results probably for the first 9, maybe 10 games. And then got on a bit of a run right at the back end of the season where we managed to, I think, get 3 wins, and put ourselves in with a chance of staying up, which wasn't to be. But I remember Somerset at Derby, quick wicket, rapid. And again, just, the opportunity to play against Division 1 teams, and seeing Marcus Trescothick and Nick Compton come out to bat, and there's Craig Kieswetter in the lineup, and Peter Trigo and James Hildreth and all these guys. And it just, when you're a smaller club like Derby and punching above your weight, you just want to show people what you can do, and you feel like you've got nothing to lose. And yeah, just ran in, tried to bowl, good areas as quick as I could, and got Trez out and got Triegs out and a few others, and yeah, I think we lost the game by 4 wickets in the end at Derby, but to come away with 5 for not many, and a few good scalps, under your belt. Yeah.
Then you got a few in the second innings?
Yeah, got a few in the second innings. But it's probably the game here against Somerset that I remember. Or that was a bit, it was probably the better of the 2 games, because my older son Jamie was born probably 5 days before, maybe 6 days before. So I missed the game at the Oval against Surrey, and then the team came straight here to play Somerset. So I drove down day before, and it had been 5-6 days of, newborn, not much sleep, and we lost the toss, and we were bowling, and it was one of those Taunton wickets where you just look at it and you're like, oh boy, we're bowling, we're in trouble here. This is 500 for 3 at the close of day 1 with Trescothick on 200. And my first 3 overs went for about 22, I'm going to say. And I felt like I hadn't slept for a year.
Yeah.
So I said to Wayne Madsen at the time, I was like, just let me go down to final league, let me have a few overs off, and I'll come back in half an hour. Need something to drink. And a couple of other guys went about it and came back probably an hour later. And I think we bowled Somerset out for about 100. And I ended up with about 5 for 30. And yeah, we walked off the pitch that day pretty chuffed with our efforts given the conditions, and we came away with a win. I think I batted at the end. We needed, myself and Shiv Chanderpaul probably put on about 45-50 at the back end to get us over the line, and that's one of the best games of cricket I've played in. Just the quality of the opposition. Pierre Chawla, I think, was the overseas. Chawla. I remember him and Leach bowling in tandem on a big spinning wicket, day 3 or day 4. Lots of men around the bat, and I either missed it, I nicked it wide of slip, or belted it out the ground. It was one of those 3 options. So I remember, creating a lot of frustration for Trez at slip and Kieswetter behind the stumps. Yeah. But yeah, we got over the line, and it was a game to remember.
And you made your mark here against Somerset.
Yeah.
Because obviously then the following season...
Yeah, I was here.
You came down here on loan, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Not brilliant circumstances. My contract was up for negotiation, or coming up at Derby. They wanted me to sign a new contract to stay there. And I just reached a point where it might have been playing in Division 1, just realising that's where I want to play. Not knowing if we were going to be in Division 1 the following year. You turn up at the big grounds playing against the best teams, against the best players, and realised that's where I wanted to be. If it wasn't going to be for Derby, then it was going to be for someone else. So early on in 2014, we were back in Division 2. Funnily enough, I'd started the season at Essex with, I think it was a 70 and a hat-trick and a fifer.
Yeah.
First game of the season. And Derby had asked me, they needed an answer by the end of, I think, or the middle of May as to whether I was staying or not, so they could make plans. And I'd already met with Somerset then, with Dave Nosworthy, Hearts and Trez. They met me one evening for dinner. They stated that they wanted me at the club and they could see me as part of the future. And I just couldn't say. I mean, Marcus Trescothick sat opposite me saying he wants me at the club. I couldn't say no to that. And that was that. So I let Derby know that I'd be leaving at the end of the season, and then I'd be going to Somerset. And basically that was the end of that. They said, well, you're not going to play again this season, so feel free to do what you want. And that was middle of May, and after having made a good start in the season as well. So I sat at home for about 6 weeks trying to work out what to do. Had numerous offers to go on loan elsewhere. I didn't want to do that, really. I didn't want to go to any other clubs. And then Nos got in touch just to, say, well, it makes sense to come down early, meet the guys, and be part of the club. And that seemed like a bit of a no-brainer at the time. When I actually came down, though, it must have been June, end of June, somewhere there, maybe early July, first time. I hadn't played for about 8 weeks after making a great start to the season. And naturally, I wasn't as fit. I hadn't been bowling. And I actually struggled to actually find my feet initially, getting going. So, it was an interesting start, but it was good to come down and actually meet the guys and played a few games in the second team, played a few first team games, played in the one-day comp. And that was the start of my Somerset.
2015, you got off to a bit of a flyer, didn't you? The New Zealand game?
Tour game probably end of April, beginning of May, early May there, somewhere around there. And it's funny the tour games normally tend to come later on in the season, and as a bowler you've bowled quite a lot of overs, and the game's often as a bowler that you want to miss. And I remember it being relatively early in the season, and the opportunity to play against New Zealand before the Test tour. And I think it was quite a nice wicket to bowl on at the time. I remember a few of the bowlers causing the New Zealand batters a few headaches. Just ball came out nicely, got a few wickets, belted a few runs, and it was a good season after that.
Yeah, you announced your arrival with that match, really.
Yeah.
By then, people were thinking, Timmy Groenewald, he's someone, he's going to do the business for us.
Yeah, and again, turning up at a new club and being part of, a new squad, and that comes with some pressure. Doesn't matter what you've done before, you're at a new club and people want to see you perform and win games for the club. So, it was nice to make a bit of a statement and show people what you can do.
Yeah, and I mean, people down here, how have you found the supporters? How have they been towards you?
Yeah, always really good. Amazing supporters. I'm not sure which year it was. It was probably, what you might remember, the Lewis Gregory, James Hildreth partnership against Durham here. Huge partnership in a one-day game to knock off the totals. That was one of my first one-day games here.
Yeah.
It might have been a midweek. I think it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I remember just being stood up in the change room and just looking out and just thinking, how on earth are this many people in a county ground for a midweek game? I was blown away by that. And at that point just realised, the level of support here and how much people love their cricket. And always special to play games here. Very rarely do you turn up and there's not a good crowd and or a good atmosphere. And I know other teams, often remark on that, the turnout that Somerset get.
2016 was a big season for you and for Somerset. And we were led by Chris Rogers. You'd had experience of playing with Chris at Derby probably for at least one season.
Yep.
What did he bring to the party? He was only here for a year, but my goodness,
he
had
was ruthless,
didn't he?
Yeah, ruthless, and the way, just his, level of expectation, of his players. I think because of how hard he worked and his determination to win and be successful, he brought that into the squad. And I remember turning up at Derby and he was ruthless in the way, his level of expectation. If you came onto bowl and you weren't quite on it from the get-go, you were off. There was no, second chance, you're off. Next bowler on. He demanded, really high, a really high level of performance, and just his character, given how much cricket he had played, over that time, and how many runs he had scored, and the respect that he commanded, coming from Australia and scoring as many Shield runs as he had. When I played with him at Derby, he had only played the one test for Australia.
Yeah.
Scored a truckload of runs in county cricket, and it was kind of building up to his return to the test squad.
Yeah.
People were banging the door down saying, when's this guy going to play for Australia again? And because they were such a strong squad, he just couldn't get in. And when he finally got picked again, everyone just finally saw, how good a player he was. And he deserved that. For such a good player domestically to then get that opportunity again on the biggest stage and to do as well as he did. I was really, really pleased for him.
It was a bit of a heartbreak season, though, wasn't it? I mean, we ended up and we beat Notts in that last game, and then we came up here and sat and watched what was going on elsewhere. Tell us about that, Tim. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember. So finishing the game the day before and knowing we'd gotten the job done. It was the season of playing on spinning wickets and some low totals, and just created a huge. We needed a huge amount of skill. Like our batters, I really felt for our batters at times playing on those wickets. A lot of them only ended up averaging 20s, mid-20s, but in the context of what we were playing on and the conditions, opposition teams just couldn't come to grips with, those conditions. And our batters often got us to 200, got us to 250, just got over those bonus point marks, which ended up getting us to where we did in the season. So it was an interesting season. Got the job done against Notts, right at the back end. Got the amount of points that we felt we needed. Had a really good night because we won on day 3, so there's still a day left in the season. Had a great night. A lot of chats about what if, and what's going to happen the next day. And I think we really felt we had one hand on the trophy. I don't think we expected a declaration the next day. Not with what we ended up seeing. And when we all sat in the pavilion here watching what was going on, kind of watching, hoping for the hours to tick by during the day, and then maybe massive celebrations. And then the declaration came about, and we realised, okay, this isn't going to be so straightforward. So a lot of getting up, walking around. A lot of anger, a lot of frustration, but and you could sense it. There's supporters here, members downstairs was full, and all our families were here and just waiting to see what might happen. And I remember at one point, I think Yorkshire needed about 80 runs with about 4 wickets in hand, and I just couldn't watch anymore. Went into town, grabbed a coffee, got away from it, just hoping I was going to come back and. Maybe some sense had prevailed and they were going to stick out the last few overs and just try to block it out and it would be a draw. And just such a hard thing to deal with when you put in that amount of time and effort and how well the team did over the course of the whole season to put yourself in that position, and then only at the last minute to have it taken away from you in a contrived game that ended up costing us.
That was Leachy and Best in that game, wasn't it?
That got all the wickets. Yeah.
I mean,
they cleaned up as they did most of the season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was one of those seasons where if you played as a seamer, sometimes there were only 2 of us. You might get a crack with the new ball for about 3 overs, and then your job was done.
Yeah.
Leach, Best, Van der Merwe.
Yeah.
Put them to work and bowl the opposition out.
But Chris was the major influence in that team, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and he was brilliant the way he captained that side and the way he rotated the bowlers. He didn't let batters become too comfortable. I remember him just chopping and changing the ends so much that Bessie would bowl from one end and then Leachy, and then Rilla would come on the other end and then swap them around, and change of fielding positions all the time. He really kept the batters on their toes. And yeah, just he was a huge influence in the way he operated and the way he led the team, which a lot of people followed.
You were involved in 2 major partnerships, weren't you? 2 match-winning partnerships in 2016.
Yeah.
One I think was early on against Surrey here.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah. We needed a result, desperately needed a result just to get our season going. It was one of those kind of stop-start seasons in the early part, and we just needed something to click. And I hated losing. I hated nothing more than losing. And I remember us just getting to that stage in the game where you're close, but not quite close. You're not over the line yet. And Craig Overton got an inside edge to Stuart Meeker.
Yeah.
Ben Folkes took one of the most ridiculous one-handed catches down the leg side. And yeah, I remember walking out to bat. I think we needed probably 45, something like that, myself and Leachy.
Yeah.
And I think initially at no stage do you walk out thinking, we'll knock this off. The initial task is just survive initially and just try to get a partnership going. And then only once that partnership develops and you start getting a few runs and you see the board coming down probably to 20, do you think, okay, we're in with a shot here. If we just keep ticking these over, we're in with a shot. And you I guess you get into that mindset where you're in the bubble, properly in the bubble, where not much can distract you. You don't realise what's going on around the ground or spectators and things like that. You're just so focused at the task at hand, and a lot happened in that partnership. I remember just boundaries suddenly coming quite quickly. Stuart Meeker was bowling really quick, so there were a couple of boundaries kind of flayed away. Gareth Batty nicked off Leachy and Rory Burns dropped him. It's a very straightforward chance. There's an LBW shot against Leachy from Batty that wasn't given out. And we just ticked the board down pretty quickly. And I remember one moment where I say you don't realise what's going on around the ground, but I remember batting at the far end and looking up towards the car park area here next to the Triscothic Pavilion, and just suddenly seeing so many people had come in from town and people had just, a game that looked like, we were going to lose. And suddenly there were so many people just stood around the edge, and I think we needed about eight runs at the time. And I quickly had to kind of like get myself back into that bubble state and not to come out of it and get too distracted. And hitting the winning runs, and celebrating. And that's the thing you miss as a player, walking off the field, going into the dressing room, just seeing how everyone's buzzing.
Absolutely.
Celebrating as a team and those are the great moments.
That was a special game.
Yeah.
I mean, you talking about it makes me think I can remember it so well.
Yeah,
exactly. But then there was another one, wasn't there?
Yeah, a few weeks later. I think it was
Gloucester.
a couple of weeks later against Gloucester here.
In the 50 over match.
50 over game. Walked out to bat. Again, not 100% sure on the number.
We wanted a lot of runs there.
Yeah, it was about 60, I think.
Yeah, it was
65, something like that.
Yeah.
Myself and Jamie Overton. He had been batting for a little while. And our batters had been coming in saying, it's a slow wicket. It's hard to score. A lot of leading edges and things like that. And I remember getting out there, and again, it was one of those, you're not worried about the end result. It's just bat for a few overs, just stay out there and just see where it goes. And again, Jamie and I are naturally quite, fast scoring batters. And we managed to just get a few out the middle, get a few to the boundary. And looking back, I think Gloucester, and it easily happens because I've been on, with the shoe on the other foot, and where you panic a little bit. And I think Gloucester, they just went, it was one way, and they were just trying to bowl Yorkers at us, trying to bowl really full, and they almost took the pitch out of the equation, and that allowed us to get quite a few boundaries away. And again, just getting it down to, single digits, and then Jamie whacking one back over the bowler's head for 4 to finish it. Yeah, unbelievable. And those are the games, you look back on, and really stick with you.
Absolutely. When I was reading up about them, I thought we've got to talk about those.
Yeah.
Very, very special.
Yeah.
And then you were part of our 2019 Royal London squad, weren't you?
Yeah. And again, like, amazing to be part of. Great day at Lords. Tough not playing. I was part of the squad. I played the first probably 6 games in that competition.
7 games, I think you did.
And I got smacked around back end of the game, probably on 2 or 3 occasions. I think Gloucester at Bristol, and then Middlesex at, I think it's Radlett.
Yeah.
Small boundary one side, missed my Yorkers. Anything I bowled just seemed to disappear out the ground. And then rightly so, was left out for, I think, the quarter-final, semi-final, final. So great day at Lords, back into that comp. Great to be part of and be there to celebrate. Because, ultimately that's what you do. You play to win trophies. But also tough as a sportsman not actually playing and being part of that, final and making a contribution to win the game.
Yeah.
But like I say, great squad. We're really building into something special there. And was good to be part of.
Yeah, and then you went off to Kent. How did that come about?
Finished up here. I had an injury, a groin injury that became quite serious. 2018. Had a really good first half of the year. Didn't play much back into the year with the groin injury. Start of 2019, I had surgery and it was all fine. But probably halfway through that season, I was made aware I wasn't going to be staying at the club, which was hard to take at the time. But equally, I realised for best part of a year had spent time on the sidelines with an injury and in and out the side. We signed Brooksy. So when we signed Brooksy, I knew the writing was on the wall. I was like, they're not going to have both of us here with the current group that we had. So I started looking at what options were out there. It was looking like I was going to go to Sussex. That offered me a deal there. And then Kent popped into the equation out of nowhere. And that just seemed like the right fit for me. I'd enjoyed playing against Kent. I'd enjoyed, a few of the guys that played there. Matt Walker was coach. Yeah. I just felt like that was the right fit for me. So ended up choosing Kent and went across there for a couple of seasons and tough seasons and that. My first year there was the COVID year. So we played a few games behind closed doors. I played in all the T20 games, which we did really well in. And a bit of a frustrating first season with COVID. And then started the 2021 season. Good build up to the season and our final pre-season game, I kicked a football in the warm-up. And as I kicked it, I properly hoofed it. Realised something wasn't right in my right knee. Couldn't walk afterwards. Went off and iced it, went for scans and had all the checks and everything that needed doing. And I found that I'd torn a massive piece of cartilage in my knee. And that was going to require surgery. Had the surgery and the surgeon just said to me, look, you've got no cartilage left in that knee with what we've had to take out. He didn't see me, being able to carry on playing. And I thought, rubbish, I'll be okay. I'll do the rehab. I'll be fine. And we gave it a good shot. I went through everything, gave it an extended period of time, tried to come back from it. But every time I bowled, it just, aggravated it. I got lots of swelling and things like that. And that was kind of the writing on the wall, career done. Yeah.
And you moved back here? Well, you never didn't move here from here, did you?
No, well, we kept our house here, and on the back of us moving to Kent, I realised, I've probably got a couple of years left of playing, maybe 2-3 years if I was lucky. So I started exploring options as to what I was going to do post-cricket. And I knew a few of the guys quite well across the road at Cooper's. Carl Gazard, who had played here previously, Charles Willoughby. And I'd had a few conversations with them and I found that, maybe the the route of being a financial advisor was a good one to go down, and chatted with Lee Cooper, who had been chief exec here for a period of time. And it was a case of, see if you can get through the exams. If you can, well, then maybe I can pop across the road and have a job there. And we had our house here, and we'd obviously enjoyed our time here, which led to us moving back here September 2021.
You obviously enjoyed your time here at Somerset.
Yeah, loved it. Loved it. Every club I played at, I was lucky enough to play at 4 different clubs. I know some people get to play at one club their whole career, but I met a lot of people through those 4 clubs, and had numerous different coaches, and I think every club has something that you hold on to and that you remember fondly. And Somerset, if you said to me, go back and pick a club to play for, and the time that you enjoyed, Somerset. Yeah, just loved playing. Yeah, love the guys I played with, the coaches I had, the fans, the supporters. Playing white ball cricket here is on a whole nother level. Walking out onto the field and having best part of 9,000-10,000 people supporting you. It's a great place to play.
And wherever you go, you seem to find Somerset supporters.
You do, and given the role I'm in now, go out and see people, sit down. Never met them before, and they know that I played for Somerset. Often bring it up, and it's quite nice to start a conversation along those lines and have a chat about cricket.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for joining us and being my guest today on the Player Podcast for Somerset.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.